And hello, everyone. Welcome to the second edition of the Con-Versation today. It is Tuesday afternoon, and we are here today with Martine Noël-Maw, which, trust me, I practice in my head quite often getting that right. But want to say welcome to the show, and if you can, tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the books that you write.
Well, thank you for having me, Greg. My name is Martine Noël-Maw. I'm a Canadian. I'm a French Canadian. I was born in Quebec, but I've spent now half of my life in Saskatchewan, which is like Western Canada. I'm working right now on my book number 17. I write mainly for young adults, but I'm also a playwright and a translator from English to French and French to English, and an editor and a publisher. So I'm keeping quite busy. And my latest book, the one that just got published in March, is called The Ghosts of Spiritwood. It is the English translation of one of my French books, Les Fantômes de Spiritwood, that we published in 2010. And it's been very popular, and we keep reprinting and doing new edition of it. So at some point, after translating other authors, I figured, why don't I translate one of mine? So I did that, and Shadowpaw Press from Regina published it last month, and they did a pretty good job. I'm very happy with it.
Oh, very nice. And what genre would you say that this would be?
Oh, this one is definitely a ghost story.
So paranormal?
Mystery, yeah, ghost story, paranormal. I have some, I presented that book in every provinces in Canada except for Newfoundland, I think. And every time there's always kids who come to see me after reading the book and say, you write that, madame, you did this, I got so scared. And this is like the gold for me to hear that, because I really want the kids to be scared when they read that kind of paranormal stories.
Well, now with all that, with them coming up to you like that, I have to ask this question. Do you go to conventions or do book signings around? Because it sounds like you keep yourself very busy.
Well, I did a lot of festivals, school tours across the country. I did some in France too. I did some presentation in California of my French book. Surprisingly enough, 600 French teachers from across the United States were attending that convention. But I don't do like convention, like Comic-Con or things like that. I don't do that. No, I haven't done it yet. But now, because all my books were published in French. So I published my first book in 2004. And now I have one adult novel that got translated into English a few years ago by a Scottish woman living in France. Go figure. And now I translated this one. So it's the first time that I'm doing interviews in English and things like that. So it's a whole new world for me after almost 20 years of publishing books.
That's actually quite interesting. Now, I have to ask this question is, what was it that inspired you to start writing?
I wish I knew, Greg. You know what? I remember, I think I was still in diapers. And I had two older brothers who had started school, And at 4 o'clock, when they came back to do their homework, I would sit at the kitchen table with them and pretend I was doing my homework and writing books. I had that favorite big red crayon of mine, and I was telling my mom, I am writing books. And then she was trying to explain to me that before you write books, you have to learn how to read.
Hmm.
No, I don't want to read the books. I want to write the books. So it was always in me. And when I was in grade 2, our teacher asked us, well, we got an assignment to write a story, but the character should not be a human being. Like you need a main character, but not a human being. And I don't know how I came up with that story about the birth of a bird. Lève-toi, petite fauvette, tu t'appelleras Juliette. And that story, I guess the teacher really liked it, and she made me read it in front of the class. And then my parents were, oh, bravo, Martine, keep on writing. And I've always done it. And I loved school when I was like in grade school. Then when I got to high school, it got a bit tougher, and I dropped out of high school.
Mm.
And it's only a few years later, after being so bored of being a professional model, that I started taking night classes at the Cégep, which is kind of in between high school and university in Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
And after a year, I dropped the modeling career and I went to university for 5 years studying French literature, and I ended up writing.
Now, I always find the rabbit holes, and you just broadcasted a rabbit hole big time for me. Modeling. You actually did modeling, like walking the runway. What was that like for you?
It was my childhood, one of my childhood dream. I wanted to model because at 11 years old, I was already 5'9".
Mhm.
So, and very skinny and long hair. And I thought it was something interesting to do. So I started doing modeling in my little small town in northwest of Quebec called Noranda Mines. And I got very popular. So I was, people were calling me to do runway, to do like advertising. And
Mhm.
then, so I thought, okay, when I turn 18, I'm moving to Montreal and I'm becoming a model. So when I turned 18, I moved to Montreal and I became a model, and I got so bored. It is so boring. You do, I don't know how many shows a day that you can do working like in showrooms where buyers from stores come to see the new collection, and then you present the collection. And between the shows, I started reading novels. And that's how I got into the rabbit hole of, oh, I would like to learn more about that. So,
Mhm.
but in between the high school dropout and the model, I took a hairdresser class. So at 17 years old, my first diploma was as a hairdresser.
So, in a sense, let's just say it like this: you started writing at a young age, and then you became a model, and the model actually led to actually reading the novels and then starting to write them.
Yeah, going to school, bachelor in French literature, and I did all my séminaire for the masters, but I never wrote the thesis because I was a research assistant, and then I got so involved in the research I was doing in rhetorics that I never finished my master's. But after that, I started working in PR agency,
Mhm.
public relations, and I got like big national, international clients. So that was a very exciting career, and it was extremely demanding.
Mhm.
And after 3 years, I moved from Montreal to Regina in Saskatchewan. And when I got here, I knew absolutely nobody. I was struggling with the language because
Mhm.
my mother tongue is French. And so all of a sudden, I had a lot of space, around me
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
inside me to hear what I really wanted to do, and to really focus on it. And one day, my then boyfriend, who became my husband, took me to an old sanatorium in the Capel Valley that is shrouded in mystery, and there's all kinds of ghost stories around this place. And once I got there, I told him, this is it. I had finally found the anchor for my first novel. And I started writing.
And just how long does it usually take you to write a novel?
It depends on the novel. Like the first novel, In the Fold of the Hills, I was working full time. I was a national manager for a Crown Corporation here in China. So I was doing research, on weekends and free time. So it was very difficult. So I did about 4 or 5 years of research before I started writing the novel. And then for a couple more years, I was struggling trying to write the novel. And at one point, I just pulled the plug. I took a year off without pay to write that novel. From then, it took me like 5 months, and I never went back to the office.
Oh, wow. And Chris here says, wow, that's amazing. Now, I know you just came out with a book, but I think you have a new one that's supposed to be coming out soon.
Yes, the Ghosts of Spiritwood came out in March, and in June I have another one coming out, a young adult. It's called Laïka, où es-tu? It's in French, but I plan on translating it into English. And this one takes place in Saskatchewan, in an area called there's a little village called Avonlea, Saskatchewan, and there's the Avonlea Badlands. So it's a really an extraordinary geological spot. And so this story involves a geologist from Houston, Texas, and her dog, Laika. They come here because somebody discovered a meteorite in the Badlands. So then the story unfolds with Lily and a retired geologist. And there's some skinwalkers and alien in that story. This one comes out in June.
That should be a very good book, and I would suggest people pick it up if you get a chance. There's always translators.
Yeah, I can do it myself now. I know I can.
Yeah. There you go. Now, where can people find your books at, or can they find you online? Or
Oh yeah, online. If you type my name, or I'm on Amazon.ca, Amazon.com. All of my books are available in ebooks form and paper, and I have some on audio also.
do you have a Facebook page where people can follow you, or a Facebook group? Like maybe you might tell a little bit of stories or when your books are coming out?
Well, I have a private Facebook page, but I post some things publicly, so open to the public. I just posted an interview this morning that I did with manybooks.net. So that was a fun interview to do. And I will probably be posting the link to this podcast. And I have my website also, martinenoel-maw.wordpress.com.
WordPress.com. Okay. But again, everyone, thank you for joining the show. And I do hope that y'all click subscribe. We are on YouTube. We are on LinkedIn. We are on Facebook. We are on Twitch. We are everywhere. So click subscribe. You will find us. And definitely check out our books. The Ghosts of Spiritwood has actually been translated into English, so you can get an English copy. And for everyone else, we will be back on hopefully Thursday evening. We might have to do some time management on that. But we are going to be talking about Comic Palooza, which is held here in Houston, and it's going to be Memorial Day weekend. But until then, everyone, adios.